Hi, this is Take Charge Your Health with Corrine Fernari, clinical nutritionist, physician assistant, and Carol Peterson, pharmacist. Listen, learn, and I hope you enjoy the show. Bye.
Welcome back. This is Take Charge of Your Health with Corrine Fernari, clinical nutritionist and physician assistant, and my co-host, Carol Peterson, pharmacist. Every week, we present you with new and creative ways to help you make sense of health information and bring it home to you and your family. With years of clinical experience between us and research into traditional and cutting-edge technologies, we give you practical information to help you take charge of your health.
Welcome back. I'm here with my co-host,
Carol Peterson.
And we have a special show today, very unique in that it explores a totally new, unique hypothesis to health, wellness, and the origins of disease. We're going to be speaking with JTBowles, and he's just written a book, The Winter Gene, and it explores an evolutionary idea that many chronic diseases may reflect ancient Ice Age survival adaptations still active in our modern life. And that's what we're going to be going over today. Carol, would you like to introduce him?
Well, you pretty much did. Jeff is an author. He's been self-published, but he's got quite a few books under his belt by now. And I have to say, The Winter Gene, I really enjoyed the writing, Jeff. It's getting better and better. He used to rely on medical school libraries, but now he's got AI to work along with him. Perplexity and Grok are the co-authors, and it's quite a phenomenal book. I'm recommending your book a lot, Jeff. You'd be amazed. I think it fills a gap. So Jeff is particularly known for vitamin D, using larger doses of vitamin D that we're simply not getting enough of it. And this is explored even more in this book. And you're rounding it out with other things we need with the vitamin D. So where would you like to start?
Oh, that's hard, but I guess that it's maybe the origin of the idea is when I wrote my first book on vitamin D3. I did an experiment on myself taking really high doses, and I cured all sorts of stuff. And then I wrote that book, and the chronic things I'd had for 20 years, like bone spurs and cysts, and just once I took like 20,000 IUs of D3 a day, all this stuff just started going away. And it's a real miracle. I wrote a book of
how long did it take?
Some of the stuff went away in about 2 months, like the bone spur on my hip, bone spur on my elbow, and then it took about a year to get rid of my seasonal allergies, and then 9 months for finally a subcutaneous little cyst I had on my face for 20 years. It's like a pimple that never pops, but it's just annoying. And it burst on its own after about 9 months once I boosted it to 75,000 units a day. And I found out this D3 is actually a hormone that you make. It's not even a vitamin. It's a hormone. When you sit in the sun, your skin makes vitamin D3, and that's a signal to all your cells that basically spring and summer is here. And I guess whatever repairs were put off during what your body thought was winter, when it thinks it's spring and there's resources that are abundant, that it can do all the repairs that were postponed during your hibernation and period. And so then I started thinking, I wrote that book, and I started hearing from all these other people, like, it's curing MS, all autoimmune diseases, it cures. A lot of people are getting great results with cancer. People that had, like any skin condition. So I started thinking, why would evolution create a a hormone that goes down in the winter and then goes up in the summer and then cures all these diseases. So why does it give you diseases in the winter? There's got to be some kind of purpose behind that. And then, so in my first book, I barely touched on the idea. I said, oh, well, it's the Human Hibernation Syndrome. So it makes you depressed, so you want to stay in the cave. And then, during the winter, it gives you fatigue. All autoimmune diseases give you fatigue. So you stay in the cave. And then, and I even came up with the idea that, the increased blood sugar from diabetes actually acts as antifreeze in your blood, just like the antifreeze in your car radiator is sugar water. And I also figured out that hypertension increases the gases dissolved in your blood, which lowers the freezing point. And that's about the full extent of, I thought about it at the time. I didn't really delve into it much more deeply than that. And, but that was pretty interesting. And then,
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Not trying to break your train of thought, but I think this is important for all of us to understand. Were you following blood levels at all of your vitamin D?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually didn't really test it in the beginning. Back then, I was just kind of like, oh, my dad had low blood levels when he was taking 2,000 a day. And I thought, oh, maybe I have a genetic problem. So I said, I'm going to pop it up to 20,000. That's like 400 was supposed to be the maximum amount you're supposed to take. And I popped it up to 20,000. Then finally, after about 2 or 3 months, I got a blood test. And it was at about 125 nanograms per milliliter. And the normal reference range that the doctors use is 30 to 100, which they developed from just for the averages of a D3 deficient population. So they figured if you're in that range, you're normal. But we're all D3 deficient up north here. And so that reference range, anything over 100, they'll scream, oh, it's toxic. You're going to kill yourself. Yeah, my dad was... Exactly. My dad was yelling at me. My dad's a doctor. He was yelling at me. He said, you're barking mad. And then I said, I'm going to do it anyway. And it turns out it takes you need a blood level of 125 to 150 to actually trigger your tissue remodeling system and to cure your autoimmune diseases. So that's a convenient reference. That's a convenient reference range for big pharma. That you're not supposed to go over 100, so you don't cure anything.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, and then I later was taking like 75,000 a day for 8 or 9 months. And I got my blood level up to like 160, 170. That's the highest I ever went. And that's when it took care of that cyst on my face.
Any side effects? Any negative side effects that they talk about?
Yeah, Well, I didn't realize I wasn't taking a lot of magnesium in the beginning. I didn't realize how important that was, and I noticed I would get constipated a little bit. In the beginning, I had lots of energy when I took that D3. I just wanted to get things done, and then and actually, I got to the point where I was kind of more easily irritated, and all these irritation and constipation, those are magnesium deficiency symptoms. So I was getting a little magnesium deficiency, but not much because I'm a vegetarian, so I get a lot of magnesium in my diet. But yeah, so that was my first. And then I put the book out, and I just heard all these crazy stories. Like one guy who'd been blind in one eye for like 2 years. He was taking high dose D3, and all of a sudden, after like 2 months, he told his wife, "You won't believe it, honey. I'm looking at you through my blind eye." So it remodels. It can remodel all sorts of things that have been, repairs that have never been completed that continue to linger.
I'm going to ask you this. This is a little out there, but would it work in any way with the wet macular degeneration?
Absolutely. In fact, that's a really crucial point in my additional research. Oh, go on.
Yeah, because every doctor you go to eye doctor, it's incurable. That's dead cells. Nothing can be done. We know that.
No, I'm counseling a guy right now that doctors are injecting stuff into his eye,
Exactly.
and and it's like his blood vessels were popping, and I'm saying no. All you need to do is boost your D3 a lot, and that's in fact the first. When I was researching D3, the first people I saw using high doses to cure anything were older people curing macular degeneration, and at like with 80,000 a day. And that was the first thing I found on the internet when I was researching my first book.
Wow.
But it turns out that
this is when I first became aware of you, Jeff. So I found your first book. And I was so inspired, I started taking 100,000 units of vitamin D. And
magnesium deficiency.
Yeah, I think I came across it. I was feeling generally pretty good, but at about week 6, I started having cramping, like it could twitch my finger and it would cramp.
Yeah.
And I go,
that's magnesium deficiency.
But in that time, I want to say I wrote down a list of things that were less than perfect when I started this. And one of the things was some eye floaters. During this time, all floaters disappeared. Also, I was playing some computer games, brain games on the computer. And it was like 6 different kinds of games. So my composite score was going up, but it might go up 3-4 points every month. And I took the large dose of vitamin D, and that time I took it, my composite score went up by 40 points.
Oops.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
The Chicago Blackhawks started taking vitamin D3 one year and at higher doses, and that's when they won the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. So, but so we got all these great stories about, but then I did some more research and I discovered there's a whole entire new book of physiology, human physiology, that can be written just by looking at the sex ratios of different diseases and who gets what more. And when I looked at that, I realized, it turns out men get hunter diseases during the Ice Age. There was 900,000 years ago, humans had to survive a 117,000-year ice age. It just went on every lifetime again and again and again. There was no let up. And I'm sure that's where a lot of these adaptations evolved in Neanderthals and Denisovans. And we eventually inherited their genes, and a lot of their genes caused what we call diseases. And they're really Ice Age adaptations. So men get type 2 diabetes at a higher rate than women, like 2 to 1. That's sugar in the blood. They get high blood pressure at a much higher rate than women, and that lowers the freezing point of blood. They get high cholesterol more than women, and but not as much. But cholesterol, it turns out, the high LDL cholesterol goes into your cell membranes and protects them from freezing. And then in the winter,
Fats don't freeze.
So because they had to fight frostbite all the time. Mm-hmm. And then in the summer, when they start eating or get D3 from the sun, and they eat magnesium and K2 in the new plants and grass-fed animals that eat summer grass, that those 3 things come in and it lowers the LDL and it boosts the HDL, which then removes all the LDL out of your cell membranes and disposes of it until it waits for the next winter, and then it goes into reverse, and you get the high cholesterol again. So cholesterol is actually protecting you from freezing. And then it turns out if you don't ever, so that's another freezing protection adaptation, mostly in a lot of that affects men more than women. And so they get these hunter diseases that allow them to go out in the ice and hunt, mammoths or mastodons or whatever they were hunting. And the women stayed back in the cave with the kids. So they used to say a woman's place is in the home. And it used to be true. So then, and then it turns out if you don't get that summer is here signal of D3, K2, and magnesium, it also calcifies your arteries. And that acts and boosts your blood pressure, so that when men are out in the cold, calcified arteries are protected from freezing damage because the calcium lowers the freezing point of soft tissue. And so actually calcified arteries are another freezing adaptation. And then when those three signals come back, D3, K2, and magnesium, the arteries decalcify. And so you basically, if you're a caveman, your arteries would calcify a bit in the winter, and they would decalcify in the summer. In fact, I've got a friend who, he had something wrong in his neck. I said, well, take D3, magnesium, and K2, and if it's a calcium problem, it'll get rid of that. And he says, oh, yeah, it worked. But he's as old as me, like 66 or so, and he has an annual medical exam, and he went in, and they did a calcium arterial calcification test on him. They do it every year. The doctors tell you, calcification is permanent, it's irreversible. When he went in, the doctor said, all your calcium deposits are gone. So exactly. It turns out the entire heart bypass industry could be wiped out if everyone started taking enough D3, K2, and magnesium.
No,
and go on.
I want to interrupt you right here. And what are we talking about? Let's define the word enough.
Oh, so yeah, the big pharma is behind the Institute of Medicine, who they put out a recommended daily allowance of 400 IUs a day for D3, and that's just enough for a baby to not get rickets, which is bow legs, and it's meaningless for an adult, but it keeps them sick and it keeps their profits alive. Now, if you go out and sit in the sun for a half hour and sunbathe, and you got young skin, you'll make about 20,000 units of D3. So enough for most people would be like 20,000 a day for a 180-pound man. And that would tell your body that the summer's back and you can decalcify. But you can't decalcify unless you have enough K2 and magnesium. Magnesium you get from mostly fresh plants and stuff. So these K2 and magnesium also are seasonal signals, just like D3 from the sun, and they get K2 from grass-fed animal products and fermented foods. And in the winter, they're probably just eating stored grains that have not much of that in the caves. But you need K2 because it activates two proteins. One's called GLA matrix protein, and that takes the calcium out of your soft tissues. And then it also activates osteocalcin, which takes calcium out of your blood and puts it into your bones. So that's the calcification reversal signal as long as you're taking D3. And it turns out the K2 pills they sell you are almost meaningless amounts, just like the 400 IUs of D3.
Yeah.
It's hard
they
to
sell you
find.
Micrograms.
Yeah, they tell you 100 micrograms. Turns
150
out
is big.
Yeah. So what they did is they gave rats warfarin, which is a blood thinner, but it inactivates vitamin K. But then in 5 years of people taking it, they're going to need a quadruple bypass because it deactivates the vitamin K2. And they discovered when they gave rats that had calcified arteries with this warfarin, they gave them a small amount of K2, it didn't do anything. But if they gave them the human equivalent of 45 milligrams, which is 45,000 micrograms, then all the calcification reversed. So you need a lot more K2 than the little pills they sell you. Now Life Extension Foundation sells one Mega K2 pill, which is 45 milligrams for a reasonable price. And also in that study with Japanese women, they found them taking 45 milligrams of K2. I think over 6 months, it stopped and reversed their osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis. That's
Yeah.
what I heard.
Yeah, we've discussed this before on the show. It's amazing. There are a couple more companies that have it, so it's available to do the 45 milligrams.
Really look.
If you really want a good deal, you go to a website, taked3.com. It's just a crappy little website, but there's a save 90% plus page where you can buy pure powder at $15 a gram. And if you bought Dr. Mercola's pills, he charges you $6,500 a gram. But you can get pure powder. Yeah, you get pure powder from this guy named Peter who supplies like vitamin companies with big batches. And when he gets time, he'll sell it to the little guys. But he's slow, but he's definitely got the best stuff and it's the cheapest. So there's a saying in business, you can get fast, cheap, or good, pick two. So with Peter, he's good and slow, or he's good and cheap.
Now, I have a friend who's a neurologist, and his father had a bypass. And
then we got to get to the magnesium. We got to get to the magnesium dosing next. But go ahead.
And had a bypass. And then he started having chest pains. And again, they said he needed another surgery. He refused it. So he went into hospice because he was really frail. And the son was a neurologist. So he started doing studying and on this. And he's totally conservative or allopathic. And he started doing studies and he started checking up on vitamin K. So the father's going to die. So he started giving him vitamin K more and more and more. And he gave him 90 milligrams a day.
Yep.
And he walked out of there and he went and played golf. He's still alive now. He maintains his K. And
that's a story similar to one that I have, but go on.
No, that's all.
Okay.
It blew him away. He became a believer.
Yeah. Well, here's a sad version of that story. My mother had a boyfriend, Frank, and the doctor said, "Oh, you got 90% calcium blockage," and I think he was like 80, 85. He said, "Yeah, you need to go in for a quadruple bypass." I said, "Don't do it. You're too old. Just take D3, K2, and magnesium. It'll reverse it." And he goes, "No, I'm going to trust my doctors." So he went in, got his bypass, and he never left the hospital, and he died in his hospital bed 30 days later.
Oh, that's too bad. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, he should have listened to me.
Yeah,
well, I mean, 85. He's 85. Okay. He'd probably got to die of something else.
Let's talk about magnesium. This is what I love about this book, because back when you just read the vitamin D, you hadn't collected all the cofactors and things that you really need. And magnesium is huge. And it's one of the most essential minerals. We have the most activity in our body, and our soils, even though you're saying, plants are really good sources of magnesium, our soil is now not so rich in magnesium. So we're almost forced to take supplements to get any good amount of magnesium. And on top of that, we can't really get a good measure of how magnesium we're deficient in. Serum magnesium or even red blood cell, and the magnesium is more abundant inside the cell than outside the cell. So when we do these tests, they don't really
the blood tests are worthless.
They don't. Yeah, there's nothing to learn here, because your body's going to keep that level as static as it can, but you can be extremely magnesium deficient in other compartments of your body. So
right, the blood level is tightly controlled, so it will tell you nothing about your tissue level of magnesium. So the doctors give you a test, and if your blood level's low, you're like almost dead. So it's like, so your body robs magnesium from all your tissues to keep the blood level static. So yeah, you can't test for it. In one of my books, there's the best test is, unless you do tissue biopsies all over your body, is you just look at the long list of magnesium deficiency symptoms, and if you check up a bunch of things on the list, then you're deficient. So like muscle cramps, insomnia, heart rhythm abnormalities, dizziness, anxiety, blood pressure changes, unexplained. So it turns out they made a RDA, recommended daily allowance, of only 320 maximum for people in the U.S., and that was done by the infamous Institute of Medicine again, and they only tested 34 people who self-selected their foods. They didn't really, and their point was like, oh, if you take more than 320, some of them got diarrhea. Well, diarrhea is not dangerous, and that's what laxatives are made out of. So the trick is you need to take enough magnesium where you get to the point of having loose stools and stay at that, maybe take it 2 times a day. You want it in your blood all day long. So if you have loose stools, you're getting enough magnesium. And then to correct the deficiency, it takes at least a year to get into all your tissues. So it's a very slow process. So
what form of magnesium?
Huh?
What form of magnesium?
Oh, everyone talks about this and that. They say magnesium oxide is no good because it doesn't absorb well, but it absorbs slowly, so it's in your system all day. And then they say, take magnesium glycinate because it's one big, it absorbs right away. But you don't want one big spike of magnesium, then it just goes out in your body fluids when you go to the bathroom. The best bet is just to have magnesium in your system all day long. Like Carolyn Dean with her Magnesium Miracle book says, if you're deficient, it's best to mix some magnesium into water. She has a micronized version called Remag that supposedly doesn't give you diarrhea, but if you take enough any kind of different magnesium, you'll get diarrhea because you can only absorb so much. So I'm not all that worried about the different kinds. Just you basically want to get up to, they call it bowel tolerance. So, and that's how you know you're getting enough. So you can keep boosting your magnesium dose every day until you hit the diarrhea point, and then dial it back a little bit, and then you need to stay at that for a whole year, because 80% of us are magnesium deficient. And I always take 1,000 milligrams a day, and plus I take magnesium threonate. That special kind gets into your brain better and might protect you from Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Turns out Alzheimer's brains have 65% of the magnesium as normal brains. And people with Parkinson's, before they're diagnosed, they show all sorts of magnesium deficiency symptoms. So, yeah, I would say everyone should just do the bowel tolerance test. That's what you need to do. And the great thing about magnesium is also when you're getting it, when the caveman ate a bunch of magnesium in the winter, it goes into your blood and it prevents the calcium from forming crystals, which crystallize in your soft tissues. So that's the triple whammy when you want to decalcify your tissues. You need magnesium, K2, and D3. And if you took that all year long, nobody would ever get any arterial calcification ever again. That whole industry would go bankrupt.
How about kidney stones?
Yeah, you can get kidney stones if you take D3 without magnesium and K2. Because if you just get too much calcium that stays in your blood, then it goes into your kidneys. But when you have magnesium and K2 in your blood, it doesn't stay in your blood. It takes the calcium and puts it in your bones where it belongs. But look, now there's a whole nother aspect of cave woman disease. But
I was just going to bring that up. What are the cave woman's diseases when she's in the cave?
Oh, well, back in the old days, the men went out to hunt, and the women had to stay inside a dark cave for months at a time during the winter. So evolution set up a situation. So you look at all the sex ratios of autoimmune diseases, it hits women like 4-to-1, 9-to-1. Even one of them was like 25-to-1. I don't know how it's pronounced, like Sjogren's syndrome. I don't know.
Oh, Sjogren's. It's pronounced Sjogren's.
Something like that. It's spelled Sjourns. Anyway, so they get all these autoimmune diseases, and every autoimmune disease is associated with fatigue and usually depression. Also, women get depressed more. And that makes you want to stay home and not leave the house.
And lots of pain.
Yeah, pain, Crohn's disease. You want to be near the bathroom. So all these cave women diseases are like autoimmune diseases. And they're basically, when you're low in D3, it tells you get sick and stay in the cave. And then when the sunshine signal hits them finally, then the autoimmune diseases go away. It's just a crude form of hibernation. And the really cool one was that really drove home the fact that I was on the right track was glaucoma, which is high blood pressure high pressure in the eyes. That's another anti-freezing adaptation. It lowers the freezing point of the fluid in your eyes. And men and women, it didn't fit the pattern because they got equal amounts of glaucoma. But then I said, that doesn't make sense. I looked into it, and it turns out men get wide-angle glaucoma and women get narrow-angle glaucoma at much higher rates than the other sex. Turns out wide-angle glaucoma would be good for a man who's got to face freezing winds and needs freezing protection in his eyes. And it's just basically, it's generally the blood pressure stays high, or the eye pressure stays high most of the time. And in women, narrow angle glaucoma, it's when the iris somehow shrinks and it cuts off the drainage of the eye fluid, so it boosts her eye pressure. And women get it when they enter like a dark movie theater or a cave. And so I said, see, that's the smoking gun that I'm on the right track. Now, there's another whole set of mental illnesses that are all ice age adaptations too, and there's different sex ratios. So, for example, boys get autism 4-to-1, ADD like 4-to-1, and they get much worse schizophrenia, although that's a whole different story. It follows the pattern, but it's got a nuance, which I'll get to in a minute. But turns out autism is, I've raised an autistic kid. My girlfriend had 2 kids. The boy had autism and the girl had ADD. So it was a nice little experiment right in front of me. And we built an Estes rocket I was going to take it out to the country, and we were going to fire it on the country road. And the battery didn't work, so I had to open the car to hook up the wires to the car battery to shoot the rocket. So I did that, and me, my girlfriend, and her daughter, we all saw it go off, and we ran off in the direction that we knew the rocket was. We're like, where the hell's the rocket? It wasn't there. We were completely dumbfounded. And we turned around, and the little boy who was autistic, he was in front of the car. We were in the back of the car, and he was in the front of the car, and he's just looking at it and pointing at it. And it's like, oh, he's got some kind of special power. And so I figured, I looked into it, and having autism is, it would be helpful for a group of hunters. They're very good at pattern recognition, repetitive behavior, like for making spearheads. They're good at, they can instantly take a picture of the whole landscape and have a photographic picture of it in their heads. And they would be excellent at tracking animals. They wouldn't have the great social skills, but they'd be a great addition to a hunting party. And so that's where autism comes from. And ADHD is similar to autism in that I had ADD as a kid, and it turns out it's kind of like autism, except the kid can't focus on anything unless they're really interested in it. So, but when they're interested in something, they can laser focus. So that's kind of a mistaken belief about ADHD kids can't focus. They can focus if they're really interested in something, just as hard as an autistic kid. And so they're kind of like, they could be the danger scanners of the environment. Like, oh, there's a lion over there. Oh, what's that over here? And they can simultaneously evaluate all different threats and just focus on the one that's important. And so that's another excellent hunter adaptation. And they're impulsive, which means you have to be quick to react, like when a predator shows up out of the blue. So, rather than sit there and think, what should I do? They just do it,
They just,
And then, and then schizophrenia turns out and then autism and ADHD have been exploding since the 1980s. And that's when we started using sunscreen and sunblock. The dermatologist said, oh, no tan is safe. And that's when we just had an explosion of autism, and ADHD's gone up quite a bit too. So, and then they're trying to say, oh yeah, Tylenol might cause autism or this or that. I'm sure Big Pharma knows that autism is caused by D3 deficiency, but they can't let that information get out, because if everyone started taking 10,000 units a day, there'd be no more sick people. So, I mean, hardly. And then, and there's even a study where they gave these women, two groups of women, as a small study, two groups of women. One, they all had prior autistic children, which put them at great risk for another autistic child. And they gave them one group nothing, and the other group got like 5,000 international units of D3 per day. And in the group, the control group, they had the expected number of autistic kids births of like 25%. And in the vitamin D3 treated group, they only had like 6% autistic kids. So it's a huge drop. And if they'd taken even more D3, they probably would have had no autistic kids. And you'd think that study has never been attempted to be replicated.
Where was that? Where was this study?
It's a small study. You just got to Google it with just with those terms. Like I don't know the exact place where it was published, but it wasn't a double-blind, placebo-controlled. So everyone says, "Oh, you can't trust that. It's not. It wasn't like a controlled study." Blah blah blah. But no one's ever tried to replicate it. I have a feeling Big Pharma must be behind that, because it's just as plain as the nose on your face that the autism epidemic has been caused by all the sun avoidance and sunscreen use since the 1980s.
Is there a specific type of vitamin D? Is there something unique that we should be taking?
Well, there's two kinds. The regular kind is cholecalciferol, and that has one OH group attached to it. That's a hydroxyl group. Water is H2O. This is like just a water molecule without one hydrogen, and it's very negative charged. And that's the kind you buy at the store, and then you take it in your body, and that's fine. You can take that, but your body takes about 7 days to convert it into calcifediol, which is vitamin D3 with two of those hydroxyl groups. And the more hydroxyl groups you have on the vitamin D, the tighter it binds to the D3 receptor. So you can actually buy calcifediol. Google it. Amazon has a company that sells it called D.Velop. But they're charging outrageous amounts for it now. And so I found a cheaper source. If you just Google calcifediol, you can find this company that sells it in little packets. In Spain, that's the only kind of D3 they sell. But it's not much of an advantage. It just gives you a 7-day head start on getting your D3 activated. So if you have a cold, you want to knock it out fast, the calcifediol form is better. But and then there's a third kind that's by prescription only. It's called calcitriol. It's got 3 OH molecules attached to it, and that really binds to the D3 receptor, but you can't get that unless you get a prescription.
And that's
And then the
50,000, isn't it?
No, well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't really researched too, but I do know that the calcifediol is like 4 times stronger than the D3 you buy at the store. So if you want to take 40,000 equivalent of D3, normal D3, if you took calcifediol, that would be 10,000 units would give you the same action as 40,000 of regular D3. So, and then, I'll go on.
I was just gonna maybe knock you off your path, though. I was listening to a podcast this week, and this woman was telling you how to analyze hair minerals, and one of the things she said is boron helps the absorption of magnesium into the cell. Now, boron does occur in your book. Do you want to talk about boron a little bit?
Yeah, boron's important. There's 5 cofactors with D3. It's going to be magnesium's the most important, and K2. If you take high dose D3 and you're magnesium deficient, you'll immediately get magnesium deficiency symptoms. And then if you make it past that, and you take it with no K2, maybe after 5 or 6 months, if you're taking like 200,000 or 300,000 IUs a day, then after about 5 or 6 months, you can start to get hypercalcemia. That's what doctors call D3 toxicity. It just means D3 uses up your magnesium and your K2, it uses up the cofactors. So, but it's very rare hypercalcemia. I've only heard of 2 cases from the thousands of people I've talked to or emailed, and they were like taking 300,000 to 500,000 a day over like 4 to 6 months without any K2. And so the D3 toxicity that doctors talk about with calcium in your blood it's actually a K2 deficiency. And then there's zinc. You need zinc. There's one guy with Crohn's disease who's taken high dose D3, and he found out that his lesions didn't really go away completely till he started taking higher doses of zinc, like 50 milligrams a day. And then the boron, that helps D3 work, and it helps magnesium. You can take anywhere from, I take like probably 24 milligrams a day. It's not dangerous, but the pills they sell you are 3 milligrams. If you really want to save some money, you can just buy a box of 20 mule team borax laundry whitener. That's basically pure boron, and you'd have a lifetime supply.
In one box.
It says not for human consumption. Yeah, it's like not for human consumption, blah, blah, blah. The lawyers had to put that on there, but a lot of people just take borax.
There's a big correlation with low boron and arthritis.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this doctor and or a plant botanist, I think his name was Rex Needham. He moved to Australia to study plants, and all of a sudden he got arthritis. And because Australia has low boron levels in the soil. And then he said, he started taking borax, and his arthritis went away. He was like taking 24 milligrams a day. And then, so he started putting borax in pills and selling it to the population, and everyone's getting great results on their arthritis. Then he contacted a big pharma company in Australia. He said, yeah, hey, you want to sell this borax for arthritis? It really works. And they did some studies, boron works. And they said, well, we can't patent it. And then the government outlawed it. That's how.
And told everybody it was really toxic. So
right.
So
there's a big conspiracy. And then a little vitamin A helps the D3 work.
Okay, and how much vitamin A would you use?
Well, I've heard weird things about it, like too much vitamin A and you get an increased cancer risk of lung cancer and this and that. It inactivates D3's benefits. So some people writing about it. I think it was Dr. Cannell or maybe Mercola saying don't take more than 3,000 IUs of vitamin A per day of the retinol kind, because that's the active kind. But if you can take as much beta carotene as you want, because your body will only convert that when it needs the right amount of vitamin A.
Actually, there was a big
thyroid. Only if your thyroid is. It'll only convert it if your thyroid is functioning perfectly.
Oh, well, if you're not, if it,
so
if
you
it
could
is,
be taking tons of it and it never gets converted.
That's when people turn
well,
orange.
In that case, you should take a little retinol. There's usually retinol in every multivitamin, like 3,000.
So you also had a B vitamin, right? Which was that riboflavin B2, or am I wrong?
Well, Dr. Berg says you should take B6. It helps D3 work, but if you take a lot of B6, you're going to get nerve damage, like 50 or 60 milligrams a day. So you shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 milligrams of B6. But, we kind of got off on the tangent here because there's some exciting cave woman mental illnesses to talk about.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Jump into it.
Yes. So here's what women get like 10 times more than men. Anorexia nervosa, bulimia, obsessive compulsive disorder. Let's see, there's some more. But it turns out anorexia nervosa is caused in women by usually a combined D3 and magnesium deficiency. Mm-hmm. And so what happens when they've got anorexia nervosa, they get really occupied with food and they won't eat. They starve themselves down to just the survival point. But the odd thing I read was that women with anorexia, they like to present food to other people.
Yes.
And it turns out with anorexia nervosa, I think it has something to do with during a famine when the cave women thought there was a famine out there, they would cut way down on their calories, and so they could it would abort any fetus that she had. It boosts when you're starving, your melatonin levels go up, and that can actually really high levels can it can act as birth control, and even higher levels you can induce an abortion, and that's like nature's birth control. And that would prevent her from having another child that's just going to starve to death and probably lower her chances of survival. And then she would also cut back on her calories so she could try to keep her children that are already in the cave, keep them alive by cutting her calories as much as possible. So I think that was a cave woman survival adaptation. And then I couldn't understand bulimia for a while because these women go out and they gorge themselves and then they vomit. And I was like, well, what could that be all about? And I thought, well, maybe the
combination. I think it's a combination of ancient times and modern society.
Well, maybe, but here's another idea. So at first I'm thinking, well, it could be that they're testing the food for poisons. That's what AI threw out at me when I was running it by AI. And then that's actually in my book, but I thought about it further after I'd watched some nature shows. When wolves go back and they bring food to their young, the wolves, they come up and they lick the underside of the wolf's chin, and that causes them to regurgitate the food. And I have a feeling humans used to feed their babies that way because we didn't have any shopping bags back then.
Oh my goodness.
So it's that's kind of gross. But that's why dogs like to lick your face when you come home, because they've got they're basically adolescent wolves that have been trapped in their adolescent stage. And if they lick you like on your face or under your chin, they want you to vomit some food for them.
That's pretty wild, Jeff. We're almost headed toward the hour. We should talk about how people can find your website, how to reach you if they'd like more information. And you've also
And
got
the book,
another
we
new
named
book.
the book.
Oh, yeah, it's the Winter Gene book. It's available at Amazon. And, yeah, it goes...
Don't swear on this program.
What?
No
Oh, why?
swearing.
Did I swear?
Yeah, you said Amazon.
Oh, sorry. You don't like Amazon?
No, I
But
do not.
that's the only game in town for self-published authors. So sorry to say. But and we missed a whole bunch of interesting stuff. This could have been a 2-hour show, but
Well, we can do that.
We can
Yes.
come back again. So
yeah,
what's your website, Jeff?
Oh, Jeff T. Bowles. That's JEFFTBOWLES.com. And I update it once in a while, but it's got a great search engine called Search the 3 Cures. So you can pop in any disease or symptom you have and then read like testimonials from over 1,000 people who've cured their acne or any skin diseases or MS or whatever.
Oh, that's
and you can
wonderful.
that's got a lot of blog posts.
Okay, Corinne.
And so
we've got.
Oh, and then I've got. There's a Facebook channel called Jeff T. Bowles where you can listen to a whole bunch of different podcasts. And I've actually made some AI music songs about cancer. There's a Winter Gene song. If you don't want to read the book, you can listen to the song. So.
Okay.
Sounds wonderful.
You're very creative. So, so Corinne, do you want to give out your website and how to reach it?
Mine is easy. Corine, CORINNE, health.com. And then I have a Facebook page, Corinne Furnari, RPA, and Carol and I have a Facebook, Take Charge of Your Health with Corinne and Carol. We also sponsor a Facebook webpage on progesterone for men. It's very interesting. Sign up. There's a lot of good information to share there. And on the
YouTube
websites, amazing information between mine, Carol's, and Jeff T. Bowles. What you're gonna be reading for a long time. Carol, how about you?
Yes.
So my website is the Wellness by Design Project, and I have the same as a YouTube channel. And we also are having the radio program, Take Charge of Your Health Radio on YouTube, and we are live on Thursdays at 4 p.m.
Thank you for being here with us, and thank you, Carol. And we'll be back next week.
Bye, everybody.
I know you learned. If you were listening, we all learned. So,
all right. Well, thanks for having me. Nice talking to you all.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jeff.
That's all for this episode of Take Charge of Your Health. This program shares information to help you become an active participant with your healthcare provider. It's not intended to treat or diagnose. Visit CorineHealth.com and Carol Peterson's The Wellness by Design Project.com. Join our Facebook page, Take Charge of Your Health with Corinne and Carol. Subscribe on YouTube at Take Charge of Your Health Radio to submit live questions. We'll respond. See you next week. Bye-bye. This is Jeremy Murphy signing off.
For Pacifica News, I'm Sue Goodwin. Here are some headlines. Today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced additional sanctions on Cuba, once again calling it a failed state. WPFW's Noah Portner has more.
Secretary Rubio spoke about the Cuban government in harsh terms today, accusing them of aiding terrorists and foreign powers while robbing the Cuban people. This comes as a U.S. fuel blockade of Cuba is destroying the island's economy, as well as people's standards of living. Just today, 3 UN officials said that the, quote, lack of fuel cripples the functioning of essential services required for a dignified life, end quote. There is every indication that the U.S. will push on with its blockade. Secretary Rubio said today, quote, we will continue to take action until the regime takes all necessary political and economic reforms, end quote. The sanctions released today targeted the Cuban government's ability to control the economy. The question remains, will the administration be content with this blockade, or will it escalate the conflict through military force, as was done in Venezuela and Iran? From Pacifica News, I'm Noah Portner.
Tennessee Republican lawmakers today approved a new congressional map that eliminates the sole Democratic-leaning district, which is also Tennessee's only black majority district. The legislation passed as protesters against the redistricting packed the hallways of the Capitol. The legislation comes just 1 week after the Supreme Court ruled to weaken the Voting Rights Act of 1965 by eliminating protections against racial gerrymandering. Other states across the South are currently expected to follow Tennessee's example. If these efforts are successful, Republicans stand to gain at least a dozen seats in the House. In more news, the Trump administration has renewed its efforts to deport a Palestinian activist and graduate student at Columbia University. Here again is WPFW's Noah Portner.
Mohsen Madawi was first arrested last April, with the Trump administration claiming that he supports extremism and anti-Semitism. In response, Madawi said that he was being targeted for his activism, disrupting his immigration status and life plans. In fact, the Trump administration initially arrested him while he was on his way to a citizenship hearing. In February, a judge ruled that Madawi cannot be deported from the U.S. That judge has since been fired by the Trump administration. In response to this new effort to deport him, Mr. Madawi said, quote, the government continues to weaponize the immigration system to silence dissent, end quote. Mohsen Madawi is currently enrolled at Columbia University, and this threat is part of a broader strategy of rolling back academic freedom, often using extremism as a pretext. From WPFW News, I'm Noah Portner.
And in more news, a new analysis issued today by Doctors Without Borders, known as MSF, reports that restricting deliveries of food and aid and attacks on civilian infrastructure in Gaza has led to rising levels of malnutrition among pregnant women, increasing the likelihood of premature deaths. The charity said malnutrition was almost non-existent before Israel launched its genocidal war against Palestinians in Gaza, and that the malnutrition crisis is entirely manufactured. MSF calls on Israeli authorities and allied states, including the U.S., to facilitate adequate and sustained entry of vital assistance for people living in Gaza to restore respectable levels of health, nutrition, and dignity. For Pacifica News and WPFW, I'm Sue Goodwin.
All right.